Persistence isn't always virtuous if it comes at the expense of your health and happiness. Hey there, Zesties! You're tuning in to the Gleeful Talk Show, where we share zesty stories to cultivate the happiness and hero within and out. On the show, we talk about personal development and experiences, society, and culture. So if these are the topics that you're interested in, then please stay tuned. Today, Zesties, we are diving into a topic that often carries a lot of stigma and misunderstanding, and that is the big word, quitting. Quitting is a word that can evoke feelings of failure, disappointment, and even shame. But what if I told you that quitting isn't always a bad thing? In fact, in many cases, it's the healthiest and most courageous choice you can make. Today, we'll explore insights from experts, delve into relevant studies, and share real-life examples that illustrate why quitting can be a powerful step towards a better, more fulfilling life. Let's start with a powerful insight from Dr. Henry Cloud, a clinical psychologist and author of the book Necessary Endings. Dr. Cloud argues that knowing when to quit is a crucial skill for personal and professional growth. He says endings are not only a part of life, they are a requirement for living and thriving. They are not to be seen as a problem to be avoided, but a necessary step in achieving our goals and dreams. Think about that for a moment. How many times have you held onto something because you were afraid of what others think or because you equated quitting with failure? Dr. Cloud's perspective challenges us to rethink this notion and see quitting as a strategic positive action. And I think, Zesties, it comes with a generational thing as well. I've noticed for millennials, the word quitting has such much stigma, I feel. Whether I'm right or wrong, please correct me in the comments. But it's because we grew up as millennials in the industrial period, like just continuing that industrial period and having that workaholic type of culture. So it feels like if you stop being workaholic or stop doing what you usually do, then it equates as failing for something. And I really remember back in the day when I was growing up, I watched this anime called Naruto, and the main character is Naruto. He's very determined. He doesn't quit. Of course, there is merits and with him, with his determination at that point. And, we can discuss about that later. But that really also helped me strive for more and not quit. And there is also a difference between quitting due to fear of failure or quitting for, investing in yourself. So that is also something that we need to take into account as well. So I think for Naruto's side, he wasn't quitting because he didn't have any reason to. So he really thinks that he's able to continue and grow in his, power and all those stuff. I know this is very theoretical because it's an anime, but I always say that anime has really helped me in a lot of ways back in the days when I was very down. And it has really very profound life lessons as well. So anyway, enough about the anime, Zesties. Let's look at some studies that back up the idea of quitting as a strategic, positive action. So one particular interesting study comes from the University of Rochester, where researchers found that people who quit unattainable goals experience fewer symptoms of depression and less chronic stress compared to those who persisted. The study, led by Dr. Gregory Miller, suggests that letting go of unachievable goals can actually enhance our mental health and overall well-being. Our findings highlight an essential truth. Persistence isn't always virtuous if it comes at the expense of your health and happiness. Sometimes the most resilient thing you can do is recognize when a goal is no longer serving you and have the courage to walk away. I totally agree with this, although it is a very hard decision, right? I consider myself as a resilient person just because I grew up in a, let's say, third world country and really just naturally very persistent and determined. Maybe I was just born that way, but it's hard to walk away. And it's only now in my 30 plus years of existence that I felt empowered that I am able to walk away from something very toxic. It's not because I quit or I walk away because it's just who I am or it's something that out of my normal self. I think sometimes we need to prioritize ourselves in a way. If that thing that we are walking away from is not serving us anymore, the most resilient thing you can do, as Dr. Miller said, is to walk away, because even walking away needs a lot of courage as well and needs a lot of willpower and mental mind work, if you know what I mean, to just being able to walk away despite you still have that determination, but you think that in the future it's not gonna serve you as well. So I totally agree with this and it resonates with me. And I only realized that recently as well. So let's move on to some real life examples. Consider the story of Arianna Huffington, the founder of the Huffington Post. In her book Thrive, she shares how she faced severe burnout and exhaustion while trying to build her media empire. It wasn't until she collapsed from sheer exhaustion that she realized something had to change. Huffington made the difficult decision to step back, reevaluate her priorities, and ultimately quit the relentless grind. This decision not only saved her health, but also led to the creation of Thrive Global, a company dedicated to well-being and productivity. Arianna Huffington's story is a powerful reminder that quitting isn't about giving up. It's about making room for something better. By quitting the unsustainable path she was on, she found a way to create a more balanced and fulfilling life. Another example is that of Brandon Stanton, the creator of Humans of New York. Before finding success with his photography project, Stanton quit his job as a bond trader in Chicago. He realized that the corporate world wasn't where he wanted to be, despite the prestige and the financial stability it offered. By quitting his job, Stanton took a leap of faith to pursue his passion for photography, which ultimately led to the creation of one of the most beloved storytelling projects of our time. Brandon Stanton's journey shows us that quitting can be a step towards discovering your true calling and making an impact in ways you never imagined. So, those are very inspiring stories of quitting zesties where you find something better. It's like quitting in a sense of walking away from a toxic relationship, right? There is like merit in walking away rather than still being there for the sake of being there just because you've been together for a very long time and you felt if you quit now, having, let's say, 10 years up your belt on that relationship or being with that person for a very long time, it was a waste of time if you quit now. But think about the future as well. Think about the years that you will waste if you still stay in that relationship. So actually, Zesties, there is a concept called sunk cost fallacy and how this traps people in unfulfilling situations. So the sunk cost fallacy is our tendency to continue with an endeavor we've invested money, effort, or time into, even if the current costs outweigh the benefits. So essentially, we stick with something because we've already put resources into it, even when quitting would be more beneficial. So for instance, as I mentioned, staying in an unhappy relationship due to the years invested. Another one is refusing to change a dissertation topic despite realizing it's not working. And another one is sticking with an unsatisfying job because of prior training or because you've been in the corporate world for ever since you can remember, but you have that passion for, same as Brandon, like photography, and you don't want to waste those years of training in the corporate world, but you've actually loved to do photography. And again, it happens case by case, I have to say, because for me, I have another example like on my own. I am in the corporate world around finance and accounting, and this profession was really not my choice in the first instance. It's just because my parents wanted me to do it because my father is in the same area. However, before I wanted to be a lot of things, like I wanted to be a computer engineer or I wanted to be in fine arts and something like that. And there were times before, to be honest, there were times before that I wondered what my life would be if I have pursued those professions. However, the difference is that the reason why I'm not quitting, even though I tend to wonder before why I pursued this profession rather than those choices that I wanted to do, is because I'm also still happy with this profession. I'm not unhappy about it. So again, it's different circumstances, different phases of life. And I feel that if I didn't pursue this profession, I wouldn't have met my wonderful husband. So that's why I still felt lucky to pursue this profession. And I felt that it wasn't a waste just because it wasn't my first choice. So basically, it's not really the story here like, oh, I should quit my profession because I wanted to do something else. It was rather realizing that eventually, even though I didn't choose this in the first instance, it was something that was waiting for me as well. It was something meant to be, I'd say. But if on the other hand, if you are not happy with the profession you are in, then for sure consider quitting. But again, have backup options because especially in this modern day and age, we need to be practical as well. So not just, okay, because, this podcast told me to quit, it's okay to quit, then I quit now. You still have to have backup options. You still need to plan because, of course, this is reality, right? If you have the luxury, I'd say, if you have the luxury to quit right away, then feel free, be my guest. But if you would need to quit on something that you're unhappy with, always have a plan. I know people say, oh, don't have a plan B because you are anticipating that plan A will not be successful. But I'd have to say that it's better to be prepared and to have all those scenarios planned so that you wouldn't regret anything. And then another example of sunk cost fallacy is continuing a major that doesn't align with your desired career path. This is the same thing I mentioned earlier, but you just have to outweigh the costs and benefits. And I know it's very hard and you would say easy for me to say. However, there is a situation that I have actually quit recently even. I mentioned before that I'm not really a natural quitter. I'm not someone who can easily walk away. Sometimes I'd like to walk away from my responsibilities, that adulting kind of thing, but you just wonder, but sometimes there are things that you can't walk away from, like responsibilities, like mortgages, right? So anyway, there is a recent thing that happened in my life as well that I have to really quit. So I entered a kind of like a program, and then the promise was to be able to help me in my career, to be able to meet connections and etc. So it was a program that was for free actually. And the only thing that costed it is to my time. However, because of the new circumstances that I, got looped into, especially like the pregnancy and of course transitioning my work to a new person, my interim replacement, it's going to be hard to juggle that program as well. So eventually, after, really careful consideration, I really decided to quit, although it was something I was quite excited for at the beginning. And I felt that, I can make a difference or I can also further my career and network with people because I'm quite shy in person. And although I was able to cultivate that communication skill, but I still want to hone it, right? And the only way to hone it is to practice and meet different types of people so that you are able to react and interact to, different facets of a personality, let's say. So eventually, yes, I dropped out from that program. And you know what? It was funny because even saying it, like at that point, like, oh, I'd like to back out or drop from the program or quit the program. It was so hard. It was so hard to say it. And this just happened recently. But I realized that if I wouldn't have decided to do that, I would be like so stressed because I need to invest a lot of time on that. I would need to invest a lot of time in my work. and of course my personal life, and your time in a day is very limited. So I felt that it was really time for me to be okay with quitting. That's why I also put out this episode, because it's a topic very close to my heart. And I mentioned earlier about Naruto, which is one of my most inspirational characters when I was growing up, because I'm really not the type of person to quit right away. And with me dropping off the program, I realized that it's actually okay to quit as long as you are investing in yourself. You've taken something back to yourself, which is time and energy. And that's something that you cannot actually get back, you know? So if you get so stressed with something, it's really that time and energy that you stress over, you can't get it back. And I only realized this recently, Zesties, in my adult life, 30 plus years. It's so empowering to quit, you know, like it's so empowering to walk away. There are still some things in life that I want to walk away from, but I still haven't had the courage and the audacity to quit. But yes, Zesties, that's really, that's how I feel at the moment. So what can we take away from these insights, studies, and examples? So first and foremost, quitting doesn't make you a failure. As long as you are self-aware, knowing when to persist and to pivot, that is one thing that really could help you decide and not regret later. In fact, quitting can be a strategic decision that opens up new opportunities and pathways. It's about recognizing when something is no longer serving you and having the courage to make a change. As Dr. Angela Duckworth, the author of Grit, points out, perseverance is important, but it must be balanced with knowing when to quit. She says enthusiasm is common, endurance is rare, but endurance cannot be confused with inflexibility. If you find yourself in a situation where you're unhappy, unfulfilled, or unhealthy, it's okay to consider quitting. It's okay to prioritize your well-being and to seek out paths that bring you joy and fulfillment. Remember, quitting one path doesn't mean you won't find another, better path ahead. So Zesties, I hope in today's discussion, I was able to give you a new perspective on quitting and the courage to make decisions that are best for your life and well-being. I really enjoyed making this episode, and if you enjoyed it as well, please do subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who might need to hear this message. And thank you so much, Zesties, for tuning in for today's episode, and our patrons as well. You guys keep me going in this podcast. If you'd like to support the podcast and give me a beverage or two and become a patron, please head down to the episode notes to find out how. So until next time, take care and remember, it's okay to quit.